Hey guys, welcome to Faris FR Raid, Vestiges of Passing Glory. This run will be my usual Auto Plus run, and this stage is really begging to be Auto Plus due to how the turn warp is set up. It really emphasizes, or I should say benefits, often counter damage. As always, quick look here on how my passives and skills are equipped and set up. The key is to remove any passive that increases the speed across all three, and you also want to remove Garnet's EX as well. There are some minimum force level required because you do need to hit force time before the enemies hit 100%. Both my Gladio and Cor are at force level 30 and Garnet is at force level 10. If you find that you can't hit force time before the bosses, you can consider to invest more force levels. Anyway, that's it, let's go. So while the Auto Plus is playing out, I'll first be covering a little bit about the stage mechanics, and then after that I'll go on to why this team actually works extremely well. First thing to note about this stage is that it has elemental lockouts, meaning that if you do any brave attacks that is not lightning, water or wind elemental, you will be heavily resisted, and in essence you will really just be doing one brave damage. And this also includes non-elemental damage. That's actually why Garnet is in the party. She's also there to enchant so that you'll be doing respectable damage throughout. The second mechanic to consider is that when the bosses are above 40% force gauge, they get a turn warping mechanic in where they get an instant turn anytime after you take an action. It is very similar to how the boss on Dimensions End Transcendence Tier 10 works, so if you've done the stage, you probably know what I'm talking about. And finally, when the bosses hit 49% health, they get the usual cut in turn order where they will warp their turns to the front and get 3 consecutive turns in a row each. So looking at the mechanic, like I said earlier, it's really begging to be Auto Plus through a counter-based team due to the fact that eventually at 40% force gauge and above, the bosses will get an instant turn anytime after you take an action. Which is actually good because when you run a counter-based team, you actually want the bosses to take as many turns as possible and your characters to take as few turns as possible. That is why I have here Cor and Gladio included. So Cor will further beef up Gladiolus' defenses with his Absolute Oath buff, and Gladio, as you know, will actually take 0 brave and HP damage anyway. And because Gladio is pretty tanky, even the recast attack will actually do 0 HP damage to the entire party. So this is a pretty safe and consistent run overall. Garnet's main role is just to enchant the party. She fits in very nicely to this strategy as well, not only due to her HP cap up bonuses and strong auras, but the fact also that her overhead goes off every 4 field turns. And eventually, as I said, the bosses will get so many turns in a row because of the turn warping shenanigans that you'll see Garnet's overhead continuously going off over and over again, and that's also boosted by the force bonus during Cor's force time. There are quite a lot of alternatives here that you can consider. If you don't have Gladiolus, you could probably also just use Oren for the same effect. You could also consider H as an evasion unit, and H is also Thunder Elemental, so by himself he'll be able to break through the elemental lockouts on the stage. Reno's force time should work fairly decently as well. The bosses do have several magical attacks in their arsenal, but due to how the turn warping works, that doesn't really matter, and with Reno's FR you should really hit very high percentages pretty quickly in a fight. And as a bonus, Reno himself is also Thunder Elemental, so he doesn't need any enchant to deal his brave damage in the fight. If you don't have Garnet, just put in another enchanter in the party. Someone else that probably would work fairly well would be Fujin. You can also consider using Krau, and I know people will say but Krau's LD will paralyze the enemies. In an Auto Plus run though, her LD will be used up pretty quickly, and likely she'll run out of her LD before you enter force time anyway, so it doesn't really matter. So here I'm about to hit 100% force time. It is a little bit tricky here because at this point the bosses are getting many turns in a row, and the risk is that they may enter force time before Cor does. If you find that this is happening in your run, you can actually just give Cor his speed passives, and this will at least give him a bit more turns more frequently, and this will increase the likelihood that Cor will hit his force before the enemies do. You can see right here, this is really what I'm talking about. I'm already at 100% force time, but because Cor's speed is also rather slow, it's quite a while until he gets another turn. And meanwhile, anytime Garnet and Gladio takes a turn, the bosses will also get their turn after that. And I actually came pretty close to the bosses entering force time before Cor could get his next turn. But I just managed to enter force time when the bosses are at like 96% force gauge. You don't want the bosses to enter force time, because if they enter force time, eventually they'll run out of force time and they'll reset their gauge to 0, at which point they will lose their turn warping mechanics and your counter strategy will have a sharp decrease in damage. That's pretty much it really, and you can see that even though I just entered force time here, the bosses are already at 50% plus health. This actually made me think that probably even without Cor's force time, you can probably just brute force your way through, just due to the sheer number of turns that the bosses get, and they get counted after every single turn that they take. With that said, kick in and enjoy the rest of the fight.
想定済みだ。人たちで切り落とす。燃えたけれ。みんなのためにも。いっちゃ想定済みだ。釣りはどこへ。責務は果たす。想定済みだ。釣りはどこへ。全力で行きます。想定済みだ。